one of the two that agreed to go do it.
It took them almost 20 years to go ahead and start what the Lord they wanted them to do. And most of that old generation had done passed on, and Caleb and Joshua come in and told the other people out.
It doesn't mention that Joshua was one of the spies.
Right,
But
that's my
in the text.
That's my point.
You know, but Joshua was kind of Moses' right-hand man, so to speak, at this point.
So I was
It
curious
doesn't mention
why-
him here. I noticed that, Miss Peggy, when I read, and, but
Chapter 2 open, it does start mentioning.
Well, I know it does,
But it doesn't particularly have him listed here, but God swore to them, you know, and God remained true to his character. He responded possibly to Moses' intercession. As I live designates an oath God swore. In the Old Testament, when individuals swore an oath with, as the Lord lives, they affirmed their intent to carry out the vow as surely as God existed. For example, Elijah announced that as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, no rain would fall in Israel. That's from 1 Kings 17:1. When people swore an oath before God, but God had no one higher by whom to swear. Though he swore by himself, he alone guaranteed the truth of his decree. He establishes the consequences for unbelief. The Hebrew word for glory is associated with the concept of heaviness, weightiness, or importance. People often speak of an important issue as a weighty matter. God's glory displays his supreme importance and his majesty. The Israelites had seen God's glory. They seen all these things, all of the signs and wonders that he had done, you know, and still they rebelled. They were complaining and they rebelled in spite of everything. And because of that, they brought judgment not on somebody else, but on themselves. Because they themselves were the ones that had to suffer the consequences. They were the ones that would die in the desert. They were the ones that would wander around for 40 years. The Hebrew word for tested, nasa, can carry either a good or bad connotation. God tested Abraham by commanding him to sacrifice his son Isaac, Genesis 22:1. Abraham passed the test, and God strengthened his faith through that experience. There are other times when people were tested. God had patiently endured Israel's rebellion. Remember, when you go back and look, when the Ten Commandments are given, Moses is on the top of the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and they say, he ain't coming back. God's done killed him, so let's make us a golden calf and worship him. And they, you know, they were such hard-headed folks, you know. You think people are like that today?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They're just hard-headed. They see God at work, see his wonders, and yet, you know. And then he says, Caleb, my servant, you know, that he would be one of those that would see the promised land. And we know from the other verses that Joshua was the other one of the spies. All right. Just to wrap it up, believers honor God by trusting him. That was where the Israelites failed. They failed to put their full trust in him. Count on God to act according to his character. He's a loving father. He's not the man up there with a big lightning bolt that's going to zap us if we do something wrong. And then understand that sin has consequences. They sinned against God, they had consequences of that. All right, let's close the word of prayer. Father, we thank you for each one that's here this morning. Father, we thank you for all blessings. Father, even when I'm hard-headed, sometimes you've got to kind of get my attention, but Lord, I thank you for all the blessings that you've given me, all the things that you've watched over me sometimes and kept me from harm. Father, we ask you to be with us and go with us in the future in the service in a little bit, and even Pastor Kenny as he brings the message. be said and done according to your will.